Once again, you're doing this tactic.
Because it's not a tactic, it's facts.
What we're talking
It's facts.
about to some other reason.
It's facts. Because I find it hard to believe that
I'm gonna
all of a sudden nobody hears what I say.
Okay, Conservative Life on Mars, because we are living in weird times, and an extreme example of, perfect example of the weird times that we are living in is the lawsuit or court case that happened in Wisconsin, Waukesha, Wisconsin, with Darrell Brooks. I would ask that if you find video of this on YouTube anywhere, please look at this. Please look at how ridiculous, how silly, how just a miscarriage of wasting the court's time is this person was trying to do. What Darrell Brooks is accused of and was convicted of last week was running his little SUV through a crowd of parade goers at the Christmas parade in Wisconsin. I mean, really, the brain activity just to run your truck through the crowd is one thing, but then wanting to defend yourself against the state, against the 6 people that passed away and the 76 people that were injured by his actions is just totally unbelievable. And if you watch the court case itself, it was totally unbelievable how he acted and just carried on just like a total maniac throughout the whole court proceedings. Now, first and foremost, I want to get this out of the way. I am not an attorney. I don't do anything with law or such as that. So I'm actually depending on a lot of what other lawyers have said and what I have read. And what I witnessed. The witness is absolutely crazy. This man is bonkers, if not a psychopath, let alone a narcissist, is mainly what most people came out. He would constantly disrupt the court to the point where they actually created a second room for him to be housed in for when they would have court proceedings. He had a microphone and he complained about the microphone. He complained that he could only hear in one ear, but at other times his hearing was perfectly okay. I mean, you just have to watch the videos. And there were times where he would not dress appropriately. He would come to court in prison orange jumpsuit or outfit versus street clothes. So they started to have to make reference of what he did every day as a part of the record, what he wore. Every time that he would have an outburst or just antagonize the proceedings, they would put him in the other room. I mean, this is just ridiculous. And then, I mean, how many times did the jury have to get up and leave because he would just stay stuck on stupid on certain items that were either already explained to him, and he would just keep going on and on and on, and he would always use that verse, is that lawful law? Is that lawful law? It was just crazy. One of the 3 things that I noticed that he did throughout the whole court case, besides having baby temper tantrums and interrupting the judge for the most menial of things, is one, he always kept asking the judge, is this lawful law? Is that lawful law? The term lawful law is not a real legal term, so that term is whatever he wants it to be, but it has no basis in our legal system here, lawful law, something he made up. Now, he refused to be called by his natural name, his name that appears in all the court documents and so forth. It was some part of the way where he started refusing or taking offense to being called his real natural name and trying to take on like a third persona. You know, he was representing his client. His client is himself, and as we all know, if you represent yourself, you have a fool for a client. And another thing he kept rolling out was this pro se versus pro per. This is a legal name or a legal wording there, and I would have to ask you to really look that up, because I was a tiny bit confused by it myself. But he made a big deal about this. Now, the other thing that he made a big deal about was being called a sovereign citizen. This really concerns me because if you are a sovereign citizen, basically you're saying you're not a citizen of the United States and you do not recognize the laws of the United States. But if you look at the video throughout the whole time, he didn't understand. He doesn't understand. I don't understand. What is this? What is that? Explain this to me. And wait a minute. If you are a sovereign citizen, you're being tried against United States law, the same law that you're refusing to recognize. So one would think that you would get on the pot and learn the law that you're being held up against to, instead of what your version of the law may be. How, no matter how warped your version is, you may consider the United States law warped, but we're not judging you against your law or what you think. You're being judged against the Constitution. So, I mean, you have these wacky things going on the whole time there, and it just made absolutely no sense. What I'm a little concerned with is that you're going to have other extremist groups look at this mess and say, wow, we could use this for our defense. So we can go out, run in the streets, do what we want to, kill a bunch of folks, and then use this sovereign citizen defense. Now, let me say this, that when people, there's only been a few people that have represented themselves and were successful to a very low degree. Now, one of the more popular people that has defended themselves, represented themselves, has been Bundy, the serial killer. But let's look at this. He was an actual law student. Ted Bundy was a law student. So he had an idea of what was happening, and plus he was putting himself with the Constitution. Now, somebody else that I do remember a while back was a man named Colin Ferguson out of New York, where he shot up the subway train and killed 6 people. And I remember attorneys and law figures were pretty astounded on his legal prowess. But what we just witnessed in Wisconsin was absolute lunacy from this guy, and I am just really concerned that people will consider him the next hero of what to base their arguments off of. This should just be a case study in a law school of how crazy, wacky folks are when they try to represent themselves. Now, another thing that came up with this is how the judge treated him. One of the major things about this judge for having such patience to put up with his silliness, even when he tried to do one of those prison stare downs with her, he even did that with the mask on, and there's pictures of him doing this without the mask on. One of the things that I think we must know that judge was trying to make sure, give him enough rope to hang himself, the proverbial hang himself, so that none of this has to happen on appeal. This is the reason why folks should not represent themselves, or at least have legal counsel with them. Whereas in the state of Wisconsin, she clearly stated to him up front that would not be available to him if he wanted to go down this route and represent himself and be called a sovereign citizen. All of that was explained to him verbatim, I mean, several times before the court started, and he still wanted to go down this pathway. So the judge sort of knew that this was going to be a roller coaster ride, and it definitely was a roller coaster ride for all the participants, as well as us, the viewing audience, having to sit and watch this clown and take him seriously after he now finally has been convicted of killing those 6 people. Okay, this is Conservative Life on Mars. Please let me know what you think about this. Do you think there are going to be more whack jobs coming out and claiming to be sovereign citizens, which are considered extremists?